Well, hello, it's Betty, and all guests are special, but this one is really special. Take my word for it, for many reasons as a friend, but because her name is Debby Frankie Ogg, and Debby Frankie Ogg was diagnosed with lymphoma. How long ago?
1984, stage 4.
19,
End stage.
1984, stage 4, lymphoma. And this is, best I know, is 2021.
You're doing well.
Isn't that what they ask you? Like the dementia test? What? Who's the president? Okay. So we know this. And honestly and truly, as much as I talk and talk and talk and talk, I think Debby has a lot to tell all of us. I mean, I'm a breast cancer survivor. So when I hear someone has cancer, I think it happened to me so I can say, well, I had multiple times. And they go, oh, thank God. But you, how many years ago is that?
That's a very long time ago. Hold on.
Yeah,
this is going to
it's
take
okay.
me a few minutes.
No, that's all right. You want a pencil and paper?
Yes, perhaps.
Okay. You said perhaps.
Let's see. Wait, 1984 to 94 to 04 to 14
Yeah.
to 14 to 21.
Right.
7 years.
Yeah.
37 years.
37 years ago. And they told you
I would be dead in 2 years, which I thought was a really peculiar thing to say. You will be dead in a couple of years, but that is what they said.
They did.
Yes.
And why did you go to the doctor?
Well, originally, Oscar and I had met.
Your husband?
My husband and I had met, and we had gotten married in June.
Of that year?
In September, I was doing a workshop up in Lowville, New York, and all of a sudden I started bleeding.
Oh.
I came back home and was made an appointment to see my OBGYN. And he said, well, you were pregnant, or I think you're pregnant, and you're bleeding, but I really don't like this lymph node that's in your groin. Oh. I think we have to biopsy it. That's how it started. Yeah. So then I said, please, baby, I want you to go, because I wasn't sure what was going to happen.
Baby being Oscar.
No. Baby.
Oh, baby.
Baby being
if you were pregnant.
Baby, if I were pregnant, which I was. And I did miscarry, and then went in to have a biopsy done. And the biopsy said that I had lymphoma.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was
what were you doing in work at that point?
At that point, I was working at the Mental Health Association in Ulster County, acting as the program director for the parent education program.
Okay. So you lived up here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I did.
And you said, okay.
Well, then I had to find a doctor. Then we had to go. What I had decided to do was that I wanted 3 opinions. And so the first opinion was at Sloan Kettering. I went to a doctor in Kingston. I said, I want more opinions. Is that all right with you? And he said, yes, of course. He was a really amazing man, Eugene Mandel. And I can talk more about him later.
Right.
But we went to Sloan Kettering, we went to Mass General, and then we had a consult with Stanford. Each one of them said something different in terms of treatment.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Which made me think that whatever was going to happen, it was going to be experimental. And that was a very uncomfortable kind of feeling. So I felt like it was really time to get down to business. And I really do believe that it was a combination of will and need and experiment. I think experiment was what I was interested in doing. So I essentially not I, Oscar and I, because he came
Your husband.
Oscar, my husband, who's now my husband, of 3 months when this happened.
Oh,
we were married in June. 4 months, and this happened in September. And I thought, oh
no.
And so we went to Sloan Kettering. We went to Mass General, as I said. They said different things. We called Stanford, and Stanford said, well, what we do out here is just watch it. So then I realized that what I was going to have to do is really go inside. Now, I had done meditation in the past, but it had not been it had not really stuck. It wasn't something, I didn't have a practice. It was at that point that I knew that the only way I had to look at things in a different way. And I thought, so I have stage 4 lymphoma now, because it had to be staged, and it was staged. All sorts of
What do you mean it was
tests.
staged?
Well, they had
they had to know.
They had to know, was it systemic? They felt it was systemic. There was a lymph node in my neck. There was a lymph node in my groin. They were fairly certain that this lymphoma was everywhere in my body. That's why stage 4, which is end stage. So it was very serious and very, very scary. And I would say really from September until Thanksgiving, I was scared. I was really scared. And I thought, how can this be that, how can this be? I don't want this to be. I really have to think, why did this happen now? And why not now? And those are 2 really important questions. Why now? And why not now? So why now was, I think I answered that. And that was that I had fallen in love with Oscar. I had married Oscar, and not that he made me sick. I don't believe that for a second. But what I do believe is that because my parents died when I was very young and hadn't been married for a very long time, somehow in my mind, I thought that if I were happy, and if I were in love, and if I were married to someone and it was right, that something would happen to one of us or both of us. And it was me. So that began this incredible internal process. And during that time, so I decided I was going to do nothing. Yes, I decided I was going to go with what Stanford said, because I really felt that if chemotherapy and if radiation were not at this point nailed down as the protocol, that I didn't want to go with it. I didn't want to take chances. So I thought, well, I'm going to go another way. What do I need to know about myself?
How did you get so clear about that? Were you always
like that? I was meditating.
Before?
No, I hadn't meditated really before. Not in the way that I got to meditate. But when I started meditating, I used meditation not necessarily for a quieting space, although it was a quieting space, but it was really to ask questions and listen to answers.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, okay, who would know more about me and what my body processes are like than me? Yeah. So off I went into the way I described it is that I felt like I was the Admiral Perry of my internal landscape. I felt like it was like what he must have felt like going to Antarctica and sort of exploring every nook and cranny. And that's really what I felt I had to do. That body, mind, spirit, emotion all had to be explored.
And what about fear? What did you do with your fear?
I had to convert it
into
action.
Will.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, I was frightened. It wasn't that I had no idea of whether this would work, but I knew that my food, what I was eating had to change. How I responded to things had to change. How I managed my emotions had to change. And I had to pay attention to all of it. where in the past, I mean, I think I learned as a little kid when there was so much pain that came in so early that I would just shut it off. And that's what I had done. And because there was so much pain, because our mother, because there were four of us at the time, and then later five, because my father remarried, there was they just kept dying, right?
Wow.
And so who we were left with was a stepmother who was completely overwhelmed by four girls who, I mean, can you imagine?
No.
Me either. Four girls who were not hers, and a young baby that was
her
hers,
only, yeah.
was her child. It was so that's what I had to get into, was the pain of the loss of those things, and essentially what it did to me. And so that to me was the nucleus of the cancer. Was, when you think about a cancer is a foreign object. Let's say it's a virus, and it gets walled off, and that becomes the tumor. Well, I felt like my stuff was really walled off. And prior to I was like in my early 40s, 42. I was afraid to go into it. I was afraid to go into that much grief.
You did that by yourself without a therapist?
I went to a therapist. He was fabulous. I would walk in his office and I'd start to cry, and I'd cry for an hour and I'd leave.
Right.
And that would be, but he didn't, and he did some biofeedback. But really, I think it was the combination of the altered state exploration and then just crying and crying and crying.
Have you ever done anything like that in terms of, you said altered space? Had you ever done anything like that before? And was it hard to get into?
Had I done any altered state? Yes. Some. I have to confess that I was in my early 30s that I had several amazing experiences with psychedelics.
Yeah.
Now, I was not a pothead. I was not a anything head, but I was 30, and
everybody was.
And everyone explored.
Right.
Right. To me, those opened the door and opened my eyes and my emotions to a reality that I had no idea existed. And from that point, it was like, all I could say was thank you, thank you, thank you, because as I would dive deeper and deeper into myself, I became more and more aware of, oh yeah, it's all this walled off pain, all this grief that had never really been processed when I was a kid.
Where was it, would you say?
Oh, it was in my heart.
Oh, here?
Mm-hmm. In my gut. It was in my breasts. It was everywhere.
Right.
It was lymphoma.
It was
It wasn't like, it wasn't just in my breasts. It was everywhere. I had systemic. Yeah. It was a systemic grief. And what was interesting, though, is where prior to the diagnosis, I felt like, oh, no, I'm not going there for nothing.
I'm not going there.
I would drown in it.
Yeah.
I felt, okay, I can do it now because death is way worse than doing this. So it was an exploration. I had a massage therapist. Everything that I felt had power, and acupuncture, I did. I brought them in and found people who could be of help. But mostly, I think, it was the deep diving, in myself. And it was extraordinary.
Did you have someone who taught you meditation?
No.
You just did this?
Yes. And I just followed. I've always been one to follow my intuition. But when I look at it now at 79 and look at my daughter who's 34, who was, she was conceived. I was diagnosed in September. In February, so September, October, November, December, January, within 6 months.
Sick. With lymphoma.
We were with lymphoma, to be dead in 2 years. I was now pregnant. And I thought, this is fabulous. Grow a baby, not a tumor. And that's what we did. That's what we did. So Jenny was born in October of that year. And in the meantime, my oncologist was so good to me. He was like, in fact, I very recently found, he went back to Israel, and I wrote him a note telling him that I was still alive and how grateful I was to him, because he let me do what I needed to do. He didn't insist on chemotherapy, or he didn't insist on any of it. He just said, he would give me the information and he'd say, okay, check it out, which is what I would do.
So he was your doctor. He was your main doctor.
He was my main doctor. Yeah. He was wonderful.
Yeah. So did you ever get chemotherapy?
No. Well, I did have chemotherapy. I had chemotherapy in the form of a very loving, wonderful husband who, whenever I said to him, I don't know if I can do this, he would say, of course you can. Of course you can. And of course I did.
Yeah.
You know, that's chemotherapy in my mind. Love is definitely chemotherapy. Organic food is therapy.
How did you eat before that?
Well, I wasn't as careful. We were pretty good. I mean, we knew all about, I can't remember her name, the book where it was like, essentially you are what you eat. You better think about it.
Right.
Book.
Yeah.
And we did think about it and
supplements?
Really cleaned, zillions.
Who told you which supplements?
Well, I just started collecting information. That's really what I did.
You did this on your own?
A lot of it. A lot of it.
Did you go to Whole Foods and talk to somebody?
Well, I would talk to people at Mother Earth. They were wonderful.
Oh, here, right.
Yeah. Or Sunflower. Yeah. They were wonderful in their suggestions. And then it got more and more refined as time went on. But mainly it would be, I would check it out as to whether it felt right in me.
How much did you meditate?
Oh, like once or twice a day. But I could meditate through Jenny crying. And there was nothing more compelling to me,
of course,
than that cry.
Right.
And Oscar would be there to take care of her. And I could just keep going in and in and in, and meditated and still meditate.
Did you see it?
Yes, I did see it. I really did see it.
What did it look like?
That was really interesting. When I first went in, the image that what people kept talking about was killing the cancer, right? They would talk about chemotherapy would kill the cancer, and that just didn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
So, and I really essentially in the beginning couldn't see it at all, but then I did see it. And later in the 1986 National Geographic with the snow leopard on the cover, which for anyone listening who wants to see an electron microscope view of what cancer cells look like, there it is. But at the time, I did not. And what I saw was this round ball. And what I decided is that it had to be loved, right? So there were all these round circular balls that were going in and like surrounding it and touching it in such a way that it would just die. It was a sun. It was sort of like this sun in the middle and all these things all around it, and they would touch it. And that, of course, is what happens. That a cancer cell, these killer cells come in like little white snowballs, and they change shape and put a foot into the cancer cell until the whole thing becomes a skeleton. It's dead, and macrophages come in and eat it up, clean it up. And I saw that. I mean, I was terrible in biology. I had poor Bester Seaweed, my teacher. Bester Seaweed.
Oh,
was my
really?
Yes.
Seaweed?
Yes, was my biology teacher. And, he just just went like this, and for good reason, but I saw it.
Tell me again what it looked like.
Seen it.
When
it was like this round
ball.
Large ball that was, obviously not supposed to be there. And what I would do in my meditation is that I would go to the thymus. First of all, there are long bones in your legs, and that's where all the undifferentiated cells, immune cells, all cells come from. And then they sort of march up and they come to the thymus, and that's where they get differentiation. So some can be macrophages, some can be T cells, some can be B cells, and they all have different activity. And I would talk to them. And that was interesting because then I found mentors after, like Gene Ochterberg and Frank Lawless and Michael Samuels. And there were these people, and Carl Simonton, who were just on the forefront of psychoneuroimmunology. And they were talking about this stuff. Oh, and Bernie Siegel, who...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But these people were like talking directly to me because they were talking about things that I was experiencing. And in my own world, in my own way, it was like I would experience them. Then I would find the book. Then it would say, oh my God, look, there it is. Right. So it was very affirming.
Did you see it right away, or did it take deeper and deeper and deeper to find?
It didn't take very long to get deep, 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 deep. Uh-huh. And it wouldn't take long to get into deep, 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 deep. And it still doesn't take long to get deep, right. Deep, deep.
Gee, that's just unbelievable. So, okay, where are we now? Where you're changing your diet?
My diet is born. Still, yep. The baby is born. She's beautiful. I think I think I have to make sure that she has lots of people around her who know her and love her, which of course I did because I thought, well, who knows, right? Right. But then after a while, that went away. It just completely, all the fear part went away.
Like differentiating yourself from your mother who died when you were 7.
Point well taken. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. And I thought, well, I have too much to do.
Yeah.
And what I really thought was that I had something that clearly I was being, I mean, because there are people who I'm sure do all of these things and this doesn't happen to. So 1, I felt like I was extremely lucky. And 2, I had to do something with it. And so I felt like, I've always been a teacher in a way. I was doing social work, I was doing therapy, but I also was doing community organizing and education. So I really felt like that was my place, that is really one of the things I really needed to be doing with my life. Although I felt like I couldn't really broaden my scope until Jenny was grown. That the opportunity to be able to raise this little miracle, who still to me is a miracle.
They are
yeah, they are miracles. That was what I was going to do. So that is what happened. And then, and the reality is that Oscar and I have been married for 37 years. And he just has taught me so much, and I have taught him so much. Right. And our family has.
So you go back to Dr. Mandel.
And he's going,
after 6 months.
Understand. Yeah. Oh no. I was going
once a week or something.
Yeah, once a month.
And what
then
was he saying?
He didn't understand.
You would take an X-ray or?
Oh yeah, he would do whatever he needed to do. It was blood work. It was this. It was that.
And you were changing.
And it was changing. And then eventually he said, like months later, he said, "You're in remission."
Oh my gosh!
He couldn't understand it. But what I loved about him is that he allowed it to be possible.
He allowed you to do this.
Yes, he did.
But he believed in you.
He did. I don't know if he thought I was absolutely out of my mind.
No, he wouldn't want to be responsible. He wouldn't want to be your doctor.
But
were you feeling better and all that?
Oh, sure. But I was pregnant also, remember?
Oh my God.
I got pregnant I knew I was pregnant in February. Jenny was born in October. And that's what I was going to grow. I was going to grow this wonderful little person, help to grow her.
Perfectly normal delivery, normal baby, everything.
I want to knock wood.
Yeah, there's wood right behind you.
I'm hitting my forehead. That was the story. And Eugene Mandel, when I wrote to him recently, he was so delighted. He said something like, "But you taught me as well, you know."
He did.
Yeah. That his practice changed as a result of when I would say to him, "You have to look at the whole person. You have to look at every aspect of your being. One can't simply look at the physical aspect of yourself. You just can't. It's not enough. It's everything." And so, yeah, so it's everything. So then our life began, and it was, ballet, Jenny's ballet school, and all of her homework assignments, and these beautiful drawings that she'd make, and we never could understand why there'd be all these rainbow things at the four corners of the picture, and she would do that for years. And it was just, then life really began. It was like and when she got past 7, yeah, that was interesting. When she got past 7, it was like, okay, we're good, we're golden here. And then it's
when did he say you are in remission? How long did this take to get out of the scary?
He knew I was going to be pregnant.
Right.
And he didn't say no to that.
He must have written a book about you.
I doubt it. But he allowed it, which I think is the most amazing thing.
He believed you.
He did believe me, yeah.
I mean, I was macrobiotic for a lot of years.
I was macrobiotic for 15 minutes.
I was for a long time.
Yeah.
And when I read a lot of books about a lot of people who had changed their lives through that way of eating.
Yeah.
And I was convinced that it was a good thing. And I did it with my kids having miso soup for breakfast and blah, blah, blah. And I read a lot about the people who had changed their lives. And I mean, most people will go with a plan. They'll go to somebody with a plan, like Mr. Kushi from the East West Foundation. I mean, people would go there with cancer and they would not have cancer after 6 months or lung cancer.
Right.
But you made this thing up.
Pretty much. Well,
yeah.
I didn't make it up. It was made up inside me.
But it came from you.
It came from within me.
Yeah.
Yes. It wasn't my mind it wasn't, I'm thinking about this, and this is a really good idea, and I think I'll incorporate it. It came from the inside. I listened and did it.
Wow.
I did as instructed, which
is
very
I get that
unusual.
Feeling.
Yeah.
No, but I get but I get that feeling that this was sort of a like you were channeled.
It was an inside job.
Mm-hmm.
It was an inside job.
Did people know that you were sick?
Sure. You mean, did I not tell people? No. People knew I was sick. And some people thought I was no.
You were never sick.
No, I never felt badly. And then as I started doing all these things, I started feeling better and better and better. And I was married to Oscar.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing thing because I'm flawed, and he loved. Well, I know, but whoever thinks about anyone else as being flawed, what you think about as a woman, particularly, is that you are flawed.
Right.
And he loved me, and I loved him, and it changed things. It changed the whole basis of everything.
So then you would go in for an X-ray blood test and you were in remission.
Yeah.
Now,
and then of course, doctors have never been the same since for me.
I understand.
Yes, I'm sure you do. It's like, going to the doctor means that you could be surprised again, right? But after a while, I mean, he kept lengthening the time until finally he said, I think it was maybe a few years later, he said, okay, we're good. We're good.
Wasn't he impressed? I mean, this is a big deal.
He was befuddled. I mean, I think there was something being challenged in his entire system, but he that's the part that I think was so wonderful about him, is that he could allow that. I don't think if the blood work, if stuff had gotten worse, I think he would put pressure on me, but it didn't happen. So then he was just rightfully, befuddled. It's like, what is all this?
Your will. I mean, does this go back to a past life? Where does this come from? No, I mean, I'm very strong. And like if you said, we have to move everything out of this house before, we would do it before 7:00 and 3 out, whatever it is. I would do that. I could figure it out and I would do that. But going in and seeing the cancer, and for everyone listening, this is possible.
It is possible. It's more than possible. That's the hard part, though, is helping people understand that the right brain is very smart. It's not digital or logical or orderly
or doing well in school or something.
Or doing well in school. It's a whole nother thing. But that other thing has great, great value. And then, of course, when years and years and years later, when I was traveling with, and Oscar was traveling with them too, the 13 indigenous grandmothers from around the world, there were my models, because that's how they operate.
Right.
They operate out of that. It's like all their cultures are, it's not about an education, an external education. It's about an experiential education.
It's like a tribal thing.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm hearing is something that probably is a thing. I mean, it's probably, I'm sure the Buddhists, I'm sure all these indigenous people who live so close to the land. I mean, they understand. There's probably a name. I mean, you're going that deep. I mean, I meditate, but I'm going to really have to think about going in and seeing what's inside. Not just, I'm going to do this. But seeing,
feeling
it. Did you feel the cancer?
No, okay. I never felt the cancer, but I definitely felt the movement of.
That's what I mean.
Felt the movement of, there were, I'm trying to remember who did the research on that. If you meditate on increasing the number of killer cells, you can, that they've done research on this, you can, or macrophages or B cells.
What are macrophages?
They're like these big, this sort of, in comparison to these dainty looking killer cells, it's sort of like this wide, I don't know, how would I describe it? It's sort of like a manta ray. It's sort of like that.
I get that.
But they go in and eat up all the, caca that's left over, that all the dead cellular material, etc.
So they clean.
They clean up. They're the cleaner uppers.
And you knew that?
Well, no, I didn't know. No, I knew about what I saw with the killer cells. I didn't see the rest of it until I saw I'm going to say it again, the 1986 National Geographic.
I'm going to go look.
June. I have one, so I'll show it to you.
Yeah.
It's impressive. And that what blew me away, truly blew me away, was that I saw it. I saw it.
I know. You really did. Then you saw it.
I saw it.
Gosh.
And then I saw it. I saw it in me, and then I saw it
right.
and I went, oh my gosh, this is crazy. It's like, how does one do that? How does one know to go to this place to kill the buffalo to eat? How does one know that? It's like, whether it's like Blink, did you read that book, Blink? Well, it's essentially that they say that it's like an accumulation of a whole bunch of knowledge that you don't even know is in there. And
is
then
that Gladwell?
I don't remember.
No.
It's lucky that I remember the name of the
right.
the book.
That's okay.
But it's possible. Really, I think if I were to say anything to any of you who are listening, it's that I believe anything is possible. And that the mind, we only use 10% of it.
I know that.
And there's so much more it's so much more to be explored. It's like, and get excited about. It's exciting, in my opinion. It's really, really exciting stuff. And now they know about neuroplasticity.
Yes, they do.
I mean, with mindfulness, John Kabat-Zinn has done a great deal in that regard to bring out like how you can grow different parts of your brain. It's just, we're like neophytes. We're like little babies in all of this. And I have to say that it puts a smile on my face every time I think about it or get into it, and that it also simultaneously grows intuition, which I think is a growable thing.
So, okay, so we're healed.
Yep.
You're healed. And
I'm careful.
What year are we now when you feel that you're healed and then your life kind of changed a little bit in terms of the work you do?
Well, when Jenny was a few years old, I went back to work.
Right.
Or a year old, I went back to work. I hated that part. I didn't ever want to go back to work.
Yeah.
But both Oscar and I were working and taking care of her and living and being with friends and having a wonderful time. And that went on for quite a while. Well, here's an example of intuition. I was working at the Mental Health Association. I was doing private practice. I had just begun private practice. That was like in, I don't know, when, maybe 1988. I can't remember when I started. And I thought, I need something to change. I need a thrill. And literally, this is honest to goodness true. And I asked the universe, could you provide this? And the next day I got a call from Scholastic Productions in New York City saying, we heard about you through the state education department. I was in parent education. And they said, we'd like you to come into New York and audition for a show called Parent Survival Guide.
You weren't an actress.
Well, I had done, I had in my ute. In my relative ute. I had we had done Blood Theater, Satire, and Bad Taste, which was actually Frank Rich. I didn't even know this, but Frank Rich, I think he must have been a student at Harvard, did a review of us. He liked us. And John Eskow, who was the writer, went on to work with Clint Eastwood and a bunch of other things. And so I had some acting experience.
And just
I loved it.
Mittinger in it, as they say.
And,
they called you.
Yeah. And then I was doing a television show called It's Apparent on local television. And it's something that I always loved. I always thought it was a great educational tool.
Yeah.
And so I was beyond excited. And I said, sure, I'll come in. Luckily, I had no idea I was up against some of the greats around the country. And Oscar said, you can do this.
You can do it. Same thing.
You can do this. And we did. It was only one season, but it was really, really fun. Really fun.
Where did you do it?
In New York at Astoria, Kaufman Astoria Studios. Yeah. Bill Cosby was in the same building. Forgive me, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, so the whole
everything
world
was changing.
It was all changing, and which I love. I love that part. And then after a while, I left the Mental Health Association. I began a private practice. I wanted to do
Up
more
here.
with people. I wanted to work more with people who have cancer and see what I could do to assist them in their journeys.
Oh my gosh. So how did that turn out? Just incredible.
And I mean,
you're still doing it.
Not very much. Because a little. I'm doing a little now. And only because of my age, really. And because it's so compelling and so you never know what time of day you don't know when you're on call. And these days I can't. I really can't do that the way I used to. Not that I don't have energy, I do, but I can't do much. And so I mean,
in that
but I get phone calls and I get emails and I get requests for the movie.
Oh, your movie.
Oh, the movie. Yeah.
Can we tell people about your movie now?
Sure.
And they can find it on YouTube.
They can?
I think so. I went to YouTube.
Oh.
And there were quite a few things, but the name of it.
Well, it was originally called Leap of Faith, and now it's called Question of Faith.
Question of Faith.
Yeah.
And
starring Ann Archer and Sam Neill.
Right.
That was fun.
And they talk about you. I mean, your Wikipedia
it's my story.
Or whatever. It's your story.
Well, except, mildly Hollywoodized.
How did they come to you? Who came to you?
No. We went to them. No. My dear friend and family member, Toby Carey, who I've known since I was 18, who is the brother of my sister's brother. Wait a minute, I just got lost.
It's okay.
His brother, Toby's brother, is married to my sister.
Okay.
So he was doing a Donahue Russia show. And he heard that Marlo Thomas, Kathy Berlin, and Carol Hart were looking for scripts. They had just started their production company, their own. And so we went in and pitched the story, and Carol Hart, who became Carol and Bruce Hart, who became very close friends. They said yes, and off we went.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So it was a CBS documentary in 1988. Jenny was 3 years old.
And they made it into a movie.
They made it into a television
Question of Faith.
Yeah. It was a long, hard process getting through, what do they call it? I can't remember. It's the people who make decisions about what's okay for television.
Right. Oh, the board.
Yes. Yes. I can't get the word.
Arts and I know.
I think it begins with an S, but I can't.
I don't have my phone.
Not funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was a trip. That was really, first of all, Carol and Bruce became very, very close friends. That was one thing. The next thing was that we had worked on this. They would come back with revisions and this and that until finally it was done, and it was going to be aired, and we didn't have a television set. And I had seen it several times in the rough draft copy, but then went to our friend's house to watch it. And literally, like 20 minutes in, I was so overwhelmed by the energetic of this thing being on actual television and millions of people watching it. I had to go home and go to bed. Oscar took me home.
I understand.
Yeah.
So you didn't have a television. That wasn't that far long ago.
No, we didn't have a television. Well, we had movies, but we didn't have television.
Yeah, okay. You didn't watch.
No, we didn't watch
the Donahue show that you were on.
No, we didn't.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You didn't. It's okay.
But poor Jenny was like, behind in school.
Kids are talking.
Yeah.
Like people say things to me. I don't watch like regular situation comedies. And someone will say, well, blah, blah, blah. I've never heard of the people. I've never heard of the show. I kind of always wanted to be somewhat current, but it's okay. There's certain things we can just miss them.
We can just miss them.
So you're a therapist now.
I am.
Mm-hmm. And you do Reiki.
I do Reiki.
We do Reiki and together.
And polarity.
Tell me about polarity.
Polarity is wonderful. It's just another energy system.
Right.
That's all. It's not just, you get guided as to how to work, and it's effective. It's stunningly effective for the people you work with and for you doing it. It's a give and take proposition.
I think Reiki is too. I think you give it and get it.
Totally.
I mean, it's not like you're just doing like a technician. It's very spiritual. So you do those. Where'd you learn polarity?
From a woman by the name of Susan Moran and Jenny Fox. And here in this area. And I studied it. Well, and that was an interesting thing because I studied it, but I couldn't do it. And the reason why I couldn't do it was because I was a therapist, and therapists can't lay hands on people. And in this spiritual,
that makes sense.
I know, but in this, so I couldn't do it. I just learned about it.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I was given the opportunity, if I mentored people for several years, I could also take the ministerial course and become an interfaith minister, which I did. So I got to
lay hands.
And then I could lay hands on as a minister. Then everything changed. Then my practice really changed, because it would be, people could say, this is what I need today. And sometimes it was talk, sometimes it was energy work, sometimes it was both. And it was a very, very effective, I felt.
The polarity.
Well, polarity or Reiki.
Reiki is. Yeah. I just know that I've never had polarity. I don't know. I know that I had a acupuncturist. Actually, I had an acupuncturist in Nashville when I lived there because I had such terrible pains in my back. And they said, oh, he's great. And I went there and he said, I can't even go near you. Some of your muscles are frozen and some are overworked. And I'm going to give you Reiki. I had never heard of Reiki. And at that point, I was taking like 8 to 10 ibuprofen a day. It was horrible. I couldn't get in a car. I couldn't get out of a car. I couldn't put my foot up to get in the tub. And he said that. And I was taking all these Advil. And he said, well, we'll start with Reiki. And by the end of the weekend, that was like a Wednesday, I took maybe 2 ibuprofen that day. That Reiki just rebalanced my whole system.
Totally. It does. It does do that.
It just does. And but anyway, I've never done polarity. I love acupuncture.
I'll give you a session. Yeah, I love acupuncture.
Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah.
So what else should we say? I mean, to everybody listening, I'm sure people's jaws are dropped and they're listening to this conversation. But I mean, just to go back.
You can do it.
Huh?
I think the moral of the story is trust yourself and do what you know you need to do. That's all. I mean, whether one heals into their living or heals into their dying, it really, either one is just fine, but beginning to really get a sense of who you are, to get a sense of what you need, to be willing to give it to yourself without argument, to listen without argument, to be able to know when you swallow, let's say, chocolate milk and your stomach goes, ew, that you listen. I mean, and that's the simplest form. The other could be, I think you should go to the store and get hyaluronic acid.
Right.
And you think, well, what am I going to do with that? I don't even know what it is. And then you go and you find out that, in fact, whatever it is something that you should be taking.
Wow. See, we walk in and we're intimidated. We think he's a doctor, maybe just because I'm Jewish. I mean, a doctor. But my cousin actually was just diagnosed with something they want to do more about. And she went to 3 doctors, and all 3 doctors told her different things. They found different things. And she said, what am I going to do? I mean, how
listen to yourself.
I'm going to tell her that, because this conversation is just so meaningful for so many people. Is there anything you want to wrap up? I could do this forever.
I know, me too.
Yeah. Is there anything? I mean, we're talking to somebody who 37 years ago was diagnosed with like a nightmare. I mean, lymphoma. I mean, what happened to her? Well, she had lymphoma, and this woman had it just like other people had it. And she willed it. You almost willed it away, but you totally surrendered to yourself.
I think that's really true.
You didn't say, well, this doctor said this and this doctor said this. You thought, I'm in here too. Come on.
Yeah. Yes, for certain that you're in the picture. You know more about you than anyone. Anyone.
You think like the people that did, well, they would do macrobiotic or they would do this or that. It's the will to live. I mean, not that some people it doesn't work out, but for some people it's brilliant.
Well, there are millions of
miracles.
Stories of people who have a wedding to go to, or they've decided that they want to see. I definitely want to see my granddaughter graduate college.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So that's the goal, right? That's what you shoot for. If you don't make it, okay, but at least you did. It's a heroine or a hero's try. That you identify what you need, you identify in what areas you're needing those things, and then you provide it. And that's the story, really, I think.
This is just so great. So, I mean, this isn't like an advertisement, but if someone wanted, I'm sure somebody is going to want to get in touch with you.
They can. If you go to Psychology Today, the website, I'm there.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to, and if you can send me a picture, but you're going to have some pictures done, but if you could send me a picture so when we put this on Instagram.
I have a picture on my phone that you might like. It has a double pair of glasses. Or,
I saw.
No, it could be. I have a real picture.
Okay.
All right.
So again, we are talking to Debby Frankie Ogg,
sometimes known as Deborah Frankly Odd. Yes.
My girlfriend used to say, is it odd or is it God? And I always said, it's God. Yeah, it's both.
Yeah.
So this is Debby Frankie Ogg, and she is amazing. And I really appreciate your time.
I really appreciate being with you.
Yeah, it's just wonderful. But for everybody out there, this is a jaw dropper. It is. I mean, for you, it's your story. People have made a big fuss. This is the first time that I'm hearing this. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so they can find you in Psychology.
Oh, yeah, I'm findable.
You're findable. Debby Frankie Ogg. It's OGG, and it's DEBBY.
Correct.
Okay.
And Frankie with an E.
Oh, Frankie with an E.
Franke. Yeah.
And Debby with a Y.
Debby with a Y.
Liza with a Z.
Liza with a Z.
Okay, bye.
Bye.